So there's this little indie movie, you probably haven't heard of it. It's called Back to the Future. It's pretty underrated, you know, it's a real hidden gem. No, I'm well aware I'm not the first person to talk about these movies. These are some of those films that are just so beloved it feels weird to talk about loving it, because saying something new or interesting about it is difficult. Like, am I gonna make a video about how good The Wizard of Oz is? But at a certain point, I just figured, what the hell? I just want to talk about them regardless if I have something new or interesting to say about them. So, Back to the Future. If you're unaware, I hope that rock you're living in is comfy. You probably should watch all three of these films just beforehand. I will spoil absolutely everything. This movie is commonly regarded as having a perfect script, and I agree, and I kind of want to analyze why. For me, one of the key reasons the script is perfect is the way it divulges information. It's something that's very easy to take for granted because it's just done so effortlessly that you don't notice it. Scene 1. Time is a major theme in this story. Marty, our protagonist, is kinda irresponsible.
Are you telling me that it's 8:25?
Precisely.
Damn. I'm late for school.
He's friends with a kooky old scientist guy named Doc Brown. No, we will not explain why they're friends, which is something people bring up as like a flaw or like a joke criticism. I love the fact that they never explain how they become friends. The simple answer for why is that it's not necessary. The characters are just as likable and fun to watch without that explanation. It may be fun, I guess, but it would just be a detour. It's not really about exploring their friendship in a deep way like that, so it's not in the movie. And also, it's a silly comedy movie anyways, so the fact that they don't explain it almost sets the tone. They also set up the plot thread with the stolen plutonium effortlessly, and they foreshadow Doc hanging from the clock tower. Scene 2. They reinforce that Marty's a slacker, setting up that Marty's dad hasn't really made much of himself, and suggesting that he's going down the same path his dad is going on. Scene 3. Marty's musical ambitions are set up, and it's also set up that the adults around him don't appreciate him.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
I could go on and on and on. So I will. Scene 4, the clock tower is set up, reinforcing this theme of time in the story.
Mayor Wilson is sponsoring an initiative to replace that clock. 30 years ago, lightning struck that clock tower, and the clock hasn't run since.
Also setting up Marty's character.
I mean, what if they say I'm no good? What if they say, get out of here, kid, you got no future? I mean, I just don't think I could take that kind of rejection.
They also build up Marty and Jennifer's relationship and their chemistry. I could go on and on and on, so I will. Okay, I'll stop. Everything in the movie is set up and paid off in a very satisfying way. And the movie is so magnetic and addicting to watch because of it. And this is also due to the directing. The camera is always moving. It's always pointing you towards what's important. And it's even used as a joke-telling tool.
All right, punk.
It's the kind of directing that you could watch with the sound off and still understand the gist of what's happening. Like the first scene, the shot where they follow Marty's skateboard as it rolls into the plutonium. There are so many little details to pick up on as well. There's something to pick up on every time you watch the movie. I guess I should explain the plot if you haven't seen the film. The movie's about a high schooler, Marty McFly, who's accidentally sent back in time by his mad scientist friend Doc Brown. I already went over that a little bit. Where he accidentally ruins his parents' meet cute and accidentally gives his mom the hots for him. Yeah, I guess I should address the Freudian aspects of this movie. It's weird. Okay, I addressed it. Let's move on. Anyway, the characters. Crispin Glover gives one of the best comedic performances in a movie here.
Give me a milk. Chocolate.
And to be fair, he has some strong competition in this movie because Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd also give great comedic performances. They really imbue these silly, over-the-top characters with a real sense of humanity, it'd be so easy to just ham it all up and treat the whole thing as a joke. But you can tell they're kind of taking their performances seriously, which makes it all the more funny with how ridiculous the movie gets.
Please excuse the crudity of this model. I didn't have time to build it to scale or to paint it. It's good. Oh, thank you, thank you.
And that's kind of how the movie treats itself. Seriously enough so you can get invested in what's going on, but not too seriously that you stop laughing or it becomes boring. And the writing is great. Not just the haha old people don't know things in the future bits, which are cute.
All we need is a little plutonium.
Oh, I'm sure that in 1985, plutonium is available in every corner drugstore, but in 1955, it's a little hard to come by.
Not just the joke writing, but the writing itself. The way they build parallels between Marty and his dad is heartbreaking.
I never let anybody read my stories. Why not? Well, what if they didn't like them? What if they told me I was no good? I guess that would be pretty hard for somebody to understand. No.
And the way they pay off that setup from earlier with the clock tower is just so perfect.
But the only power source capable of generating 1.21 gigawatts of electricity is a bolt of lightning.
What did you say?
A bolt of lightning. Unfortunately, you never know when or where it's ever going to strike.
We do now.
This is it.
And that clip reminds me, going back to the directing a little bit, the blocking in this movie is incredible. It should be the example for good blocking because it is, again, so over the top that it's kind of easy to notice. If you're unaware, blocking and business it just refers to how characters move in a scene. And boy, do these characters move. So many scenes involve Marty and Doc comedically moving past each other. Or like when Marty reveals the situation with his mom and he moves into a darkly lit area of the room. It keeps up the energy, it's funny, and it shows the character's emotions in a very visual, easy to understand way. It's great. So I already went into this a little bit, but I think the tone is perfect with these movies. And a big part of that is Alan Silvestri's score, which, let's be real, I think should be considered one of the best film scores. It's equal parts silly, triumphant, and sincere, which is what these movies are. And not just in the big roaring moments. So many scenes are elevated by the incredible score.
If we could somehow harness this lightning, it just might work. Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future.
Okay, all right.
I like how Doc talks to a picture of Thomas Edison for guidance.
Tom, how am I going to generate that kind of power? It can't be done, can it?
The movie in general is just pretty funny.
Whoa, this is heavy.
There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
I'm not really going to give a play-by-play of every scene like I did sort of at the beginning, because I just love this movie, and I really don't think me explaining every scene and how clever they are will get across how fun this movie is. So I'm kind of just going to skip ahead to the climax because I really love it. The movie just builds stakes so incredibly well. The picture of Marty's family being slowly erased adds a nice ticking clock element, which is also cleverly set up ahead of time.
Pretty mediocre photographic fakery. They cut off your mother's hair.
And the whole dilemma of Doc, who dies in the future, and Marty's like, should I tell his past self what's gonna happen?
Doc, about the future.
No! Whatever you've got to tell me, I'll find out through the natural course of time.
The movie just keeps piling on problem after problem that Marty has to get out of. The movie just tangles up so many threads and then untangles them effortlessly. Like that ticking clock element being resolved in the Earth Angel scene is just incredible tension and release storytelling. And then of course we get to the famous Johnny Be Good scene, which a lot of people say has no point. Like, oh, the movie just stops for a minute and it's just a fun scene. But I disagree. Fun is a point. It is not a pointless scene if it's fun. which it is, but even more than that, like it does have a point beyond just being fun. Marty has not been able to have any fun in this time travel escapade thus far. Just a few minutes ago, he was worried he was about to get erased from existence. And also at the start of the movie, he tried rocking out with his band and he got told he's too loud. So here, he finally gets to have fun. He gets to rock out, which is what he wants to do, remember? He wants to be a musician, and he finally gets to let loose, have a bit of fun in the 1950s, and rock out like he wants to. And also, like, from a structural standpoint, we just had the Earth Angel scene, a scene of high tension, and we're about to go to the climax, which is another high tension scene. So we take a break for a minute and have this little moment of fun. And then we get to the climax itself, which, holy shit. First of all, anytime Christopher Lloyd yells, it's cinema.
You're late! You have no concept of time!
For real though, the climax of this movie is just one of those magical movie moments where it feels like everything just comes together to create something that you can't quite get with just one medium on its own. The score, the performances, the writing, the effects, just everything. And even now they're still building tension with the wire disconnecting and the car not starting, which isn't just used for tension in this scene. It actually pays off later because when he gets back to the future, he can't just drive over to the mall. The thunderstorm raging and it just makes everything so chaotic. And of course, Christopher Lloyd yelling.
The consequences could be disastrous!
That's my favorite Christopher Lloyd yell in the movie, by the way. And again, Alan Silvestri severely cooking.
In about 30 years!
It's just perfect. And the silence after Doc succeeds is just... mwah, mwah. But there's one more thing I feel like I should mention with this movie, which is why I love it so much, alongside all the other reasons I've mentioned thus far. And it's actually something that a lot of people note about this movie as like a fun, weird thing to notice. Marty doesn't have a character arc. He's kind of the same person at the beginning and end of the film. He thinks his dad should stick up for himself at the start. He has a little self-doubt, but he doesn't really overcome that by the end. He's still the same guy. And he believes that Doc should try and change his future from the start. And he doesn't change. He's only vindicated throughout the story. But I don't think that's some oversight or something that the movie succeeds in spite of. I think the movie works so well because Marty doesn't have an arc. I don't want to get too philosophical in a movie about a silly 80s comedy movie, but generally the reason people like having characters with arcs in stories is because it kind of reflects the changes we go through in our lives. That no matter how much we suck, we're always capable of change and growth. The whole hero's journey is about changing but still being the same person at heart. And that's all fine and good, but it's not a hard and fast rule. It's not all stories should be like this. And in my opinion, what makes this movie such a crowd pleaser and so beautiful is because it reminds us of the positive effect we can have on other people. The whole movie centers around Marty trying to build his dad's confidence to get him to ask out his mom. It really is Freudian, isn't it? And what's great about it is that Marty isn't really that confident in himself either, like at the beginning.
It's like Doc's
Yeah,
always
I
saying.
know. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
That's good advice, Marty.
So seeing him try to build his own dad's confidence is really heartwarming.
I wish I wasn't so scared. George, there's nothing to be scared of. All it takes is a little self-confidence. You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
And it works. He stands up for himself on his own, but he wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of his friend. Son. Guy. Anyway, it's beautiful.
Are you okay?
Alan Silvestri once again popping the fuck off.
Well, Marty, I want to thank you for all your good advice. I'll never forget it.
And the way he changes Doc's mind is so beautiful too. On paper, the fact that the whole movie Doc is refusing to learn about his future because it's too dangerous, and then the payoff is him just going, oh, what the hell?
Not all that talk about screwing up future events, the space-time continuum.
Well, I figured. What the hell?
It should be bad, but it works so well because the whole movie is about having a positive effect on the people around you.
Your first novel.
Like I've always told you, you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
It's just so earnest and sincere and moving, to be honest. And it's why I love the movie. Like, for all its fun science fiction stuff, for all its funny jokes, for all its fun performances and fun scenes, to also have as big a heart as the movie has is just amazing. It doesn't just feel like the script is fun or the characters are fun. It feels like the filmmakers and everyone working on it was having fun making it and really cared about what they were making. And that feeling is just infectious. You remember back when movies played on TV, you know, like 500 years ago? I remember this phenomenon where if Back to the Future was playing and I switched to that channel that was playing it, I would have to watch the entire movie. I would plant my ass down on the couch and watch the entire movie. I just had to finish it because, like I said, it's just a really infectious movie. When rewatching the film for making this video and writing all my notes, I hit a point 40 minutes into the movie where I accidentally moved my mouse and saw that I was 40 minutes into the movie, and I was shocked because it did not feel like 40 minutes had gone by. Because of all those clever setups and payoffs and all these new things you're learning with each scene, it just really keeps you engaged so well. I would say it's one of the best paced movies of all time. The movie kind of defies analysis at a certain point. It's amazing that this movie works so well as a sci-fi, as a comedy, as a romance, and that it is so sincere and has such a big heart. It's one of the best movies ever made. To me, it's the platonic ideal of movies as big crowd-pleasing entertainment. It's just a film of pure joy. I really like it, if you couldn't tell.
There was scat all over the pounds we shipped out for the next 30 business days.
So moving on to part 2, and yes, I am going to be talking about the sequels in this video because as a kid, I always marathoned these movies, so it kind of was just one long movie as opposed to a series. And when else am I going to talk about them? So, Robert Zemeckis and writer Bob Gale, whose name doesn't get mentioned enough when talking about this movie. He should get mentioned more than Spielberg. Sorry, this is a complete tangent. I just hate the marketing gimmick of putting the more famous producer in front of the film's title just to trick people into thinking they made it instead. At least these ones say Steven Spielberg Presents instead of fucking Nightmare Before Christmas, which is just Tim Burton's ''S. Sorry, that's a complete tangent. I wish I could go back in time and erase it. I didn't talk about the iconic final scene of the first movie that they recreate at the start of this one with a completely different actress that Zemeckis and Gale have been honest about, that it wasn't a cliffhanger, or it wasn't actually meant to act as a cliffhanger. It was just supposed to be a gag. Haha, Marty and Doc are getting involved in another wacky time travel adventure that we'll never see. They never planned any sequels, but the first movie made manure loads of money, so the studio demanded sequels. So they decided to write and film 2 and 3 simultaneously. And I bring this up not just because it's a fun fact, and it is, but because it is very relevant to this film. The start of this movie kind of feels like they were stuck with what they had happen at the end of the last movie. It is so clear that they didn't want Jennifer to actually be in the future with Marty and Doc, so they basically write her out immediately.
She was asking too many questions and no one should know too much about their future. This way, when she wakes up, she'll think it was all a dream.
It has a little bit of a Return of the Jedi problem. God help me, I mentioned Star Wars on the internet, where the first chunk of the movie, the first act really, is fun, but it does feel just a little kind of disconnected from the rest of the movie. It's not a super big criticism, and I think it works better here because it does lead into the main plot directly. But it's kind of indicative of the bigger problem with these sequels, is that they're not as structurally tight as the first movie. They're a little more meandering, just a little bit more scattershot. Like the whole first act in 2015 could be its own movie, really. And it just kind of coincidentally leads into the plot of the rest of the film. It's a little all over the place, but it's still a really cool scene. It's one of the most iconic scenes from the entire series. It's neat to see 1989's vision of 2015. How silly they were to think all of this was plausible. Video calls, voice activated everything, endless sequels to 80s movies, uncanny valley recreations of celebrities saying a inane thing for random assholes' enjoyment. Silly old people.
I was flipping bricks for Mansa Musa before y'all even became a Type 1 civilization.
Anyway, I like part 2 and 3. They're not as lightning in a bottle brilliant as the first movie, but they're still remarkably consistent and fun. And they do maintain that sort of magnetic quality that the first film has. You can tell that Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale are great at building tension in both the writing and filmmaking. And these characters, these performances, are as fun as ever. One of the main ways in which it's weaker than the first film structurally is they give Marty an arc. He doesn't like being called chicken.
Chicken? Nobody calls me.
And I feel like this was a mistake. I already talked about how much I think that worked for the first film, and changing that structure isn't bad. I'm not like super bothered by it. They don't spend a lot of time on it, but that's just it. They don't spend a lot of time on it. Feels a little tacked on, like that was a criticism someone could have had of the first movie, and so they fixed it with 2 and 3. But I feel like it does lose some of that emotional power that part 1 had because Marty has an arc. It just becomes a bit more standard, a bit more formulaic. And while his arc isn't bad, you know, overcoming your insecurities is something that a lot of movies do, but helping someone else overcome their insecurities is something that not a lot of movies do. So it just feels more special and more emotionally resonant. Something I do enjoy, though, is the fact that because they wrote 2 and 3 together and filmed them together, that arc goes across part 2 and part 3. And there are lots of setups in part 2 that are only paid off in part 3, Marty's arc being one of them. And I like it. It makes the whole trilogy feel like one long movie. And it also allows them to employ a lot of running gags, and it's always pretty funny.
I want to make sure that we get 2 coats of wax this time, not just 1.
Just finishing up the second coat now.
Hey, Gramps! I told you 2 coats of wax on my car, not just 1. Hey, I just put the second coat on last week.
In general, the whole movie is really funny. And I'll just take this time to mention a lot of the things I praised part 1 for also apply here. The blocking here is incredible.
There's a Dr. Emmett Brown from 1955. The younger me that helps the other you.
There's also a lot of small details to pick up on. I only just noticed during this last watch that Biff's mom tells him to not forget to turn off the garage lights when he leaves. And of course, when we cut back to the garage after Biff leaves, he's left the garage lights on, and he's even left the fucking door open. The very engaging filmmaking style, the writing that's constantly raising the stakes in creative ways, that's all here, and that's all great. And one thing I will say about this movie that is 100% positive are the effects. They are unreal in this movie. Honestly, like, even if someone didn't like the first movie, I think this is kind of a must-watch, if only to gawk at how amazing the effects are. What makes them so special is that Robert Zemeckis, his approach when shooting the effects shots were to shoot them like any other shot. So when he had Michael J. Fox have to interact with himself in the frame, he did not shoot it the traditional way, which what you normally do is you set the camera on lockdown, put it on a tripod or something, don't move it, and then just have the actor film both sides of the conversation. And then you take the 2 bits of footage, you flop them on top of each other and then you crop one halfway, and it works. But he wanted to shoot these scenes like they were any other scene, as if there was no effect at all. So ILM, the effects company that worked on this film, basically built a huge track that you could put the camera on and program the movements of the camera frame by frame. And now, because you could perfectly replicate the movement of a shot in multiple different takes, you wouldn't have to have the camera on lockdown. You could move it around. It's the kind of thing where if you didn't even know it was the same actor, you wouldn't even think anything of it. The most impressive shot, in my opinion, is the one with Biff and old Biff in his old car, because as the shot begins, it looks completely normal, nothing out of the ordinary about it, but it's only about halfway in where the effect actually starts and he starts conversing with himself.
Get the hell out of my car, old man!
It's so impressive, but impressive in a truly invisible way. They only exist to serve the story, which is what special effects are for. Anyway, the actual plot. The main plot of the movie is that Marty buys a sports almanac from 2015 to make some sports bets that he can't lose in the past, to which Doc stops him. The older Biff snoops in on them, steals the almanac, and uses it for his own financial gain. And now they gotta stop Biff. I won't go into as much of a play-by-play with this one. I know I've mostly been critical in this review, but that's only because I don't want to just go into every scene and every joke and just say this one's funny, this scene's cool, this joke's funny over and over again. But there are a lot of things I enjoy about the movie. From small things.
The encounter could create a time paradox, the results of which could cause a chain reaction that would unravel the very fabric of the space-time continuum and destroy the entire universe. Granted, that's a worst-case scenario.
The super inflatable tit, to more famous jokes.
You mean you have to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy.
To complete scenes like the entire 2015 opening.
Within 2 hours of his arrest, Martin McFly Jr. was tried, convicted, and sentenced to 15 years in the state penitentiary?
The justice system works swiftly in the future now that they've abolished all lawyers.
Or the famous chalkboard explanation scene.
The whole thing is my fault. If I hadn't bought that damn book, none of this would have ever happened.
Well, that's all in the past.
You mean the future?
Whatever.
To the absolute best part of the movie, when they discover that they have to go back to 1955.
You're not gonna believe this! We gotta go back to 1955!
I don't believe it!
And it results in them going back into the events of the first film and reliving it while also trying to not run into their old selves. It is awfully coincidental.
Unbelievable that old Biff could have chosen that particular date. Could mean that that point in time inherently contains some sort of cosmic significance. Almost as if it were the temporal junction point for the entire space-time continuum. On the other hand, it could just be an amazing coincidence.
But it is such a brilliantly creative idea. To see the camera pan over, revealing the part 2 characters sneaking around behind the part 1 characters.
Yeah, I'd like to have that in writing. Yeah, me too.
It's one of the most fun science fiction set pieces I've seen in a movie. I'd ask why no other movie has tried this, but I know the answer. If any movie did try this, it would just be ripping off Back to the Future 2. And the whole climax of this film really does capture the same magic of the first film's climax. The scene where Marty's hoverboarding around Biff's car is staged so well. Alan Silvestri making the best score ever made, part 2. And I think this may be one of my favorite cliffhanger endings of any movie, not counting the first one because it wasn't really meant to be an actual cliffhanger.
No, it can't be. Just sent you back to the future.
Oh, I know you did send me back to the future, but I'm back. I'm back from the future.
It's such a great cliffhanger because it still feels like you got a complete movie. The whole sports almanac storyline has been resolved. Marty literally burns it in a fire. The whole Biff storyline really has been concluded. I know he comes back in part 3, but he's not as much of a focus as he is here. And it's an exciting idea. The fact that Marty now has to find modern day Doc with the help of old day Doc. And that's Back to the Future Part 2. I didn't have as much praise for this one, but I still really love it. I think the main issue with this movie is that it lacks a real beating heart like the first movie did. I noticed that when during that whole revisiting 1955 scene, they show the scene of George punching Biff from the first movie. And even seeing those clips out of context, I was feeling so much. And then I remembered, yeah, there's not really anything like that in part 2. There's not even really much that's trying to be that. And not having that, it doesn't ruin the movie. You know, you're just left with the fun characters, the creative sci-fi set pieces, the engaging filmmaking and clever writing, but it does feel like it's just missing a little something. It kind of just feels like another Doc and Marty adventure, which, all things considered, is a pretty good criticism. I love these characters. I love being around them, so it being just another adventure with them is pretty good.
They said I wouldn't shit on them. I spread my cheeks and hit him with an absolute screamer.
Okay, Back to the Future 3. First things first, let's get the most important stuff out of the way. I love how Christopher Lloyd says howdy doody time.
Howdy doody time.
No, for real. Once again, all of the positives I mentioned about part 1 and 2, the really good blocking, the filmmaking, the writing, the fact that they're really funny, it all applies here as well. So with all that being said, let's get to the real important stuff. I like the way Marty says his horse broke down.
Well, my horse broke down and...
The plot is that after part 2, where Doc gets struck by lightning and accidentally sent back to the Old West, which is a great scene that I didn't even talk about in part 2, now Marty has to find him even though Doc doesn't really want him to.
Once you have returned to 1985, destroy the time machine. Destroy it?
Yeah, well, it's a long story, Doc.
Do not. I repeat, do not attempt to come back here to get me.
And Marty was actually willing to respect his wishes until...
What's wrong, Marty? You look like you've seen a ghost. Oh, great Scott.
Died September 7th, 1885. That's 1 week after you wrote the letter.
Marty, please don't stand there.
Oh, right.
So now he has to go back and save Doc. This one's fun. I really like this one. A lot of people don't. It's kind of the black sheep of the franchise. Part 1 is a classic. Part 2 is iconic, and Part 3 exists. Seems to be the consensus. And I don't agree. Maybe it's just because I used to watch all 3 films together so much as a kid, but Part 3 is pretty consistent with the other 2. Not as strong structurally as Part 1, but with lots of great scenes and moments and funny jokes.
Nice tea.
I love all the running gags that they bring back from part 1 and 2.
I apologize for the crudity of this model, but
Yeah, no, Doc, it's not the scale.
We also get some good old-fashioned time travel irony jokes.
What kind of skins is them? What's that writing mean? Need K, what is that?
People in the past were so silly. They didn't know things we do. Alan Silvestri once again cooks here. He composes a new Old West theme just for this movie, and it slaps. And like with part 2, even though the structure isn't as strong, Bob Gale is still really good at building tension and just escalating the problem. Doc is going to be shot dead on Monday, but the DeLorean's gas tank is broken, so how can they get it up to 88 miles per hour?
we know it won't run under its own power. We know we can't pull it. If we could figure out a way to push it up to 88 miles an hour. Huh?
They come up with this plan, discover that it's possible, and they also foreshadow Clara's character. Don't get me wrong, I do understand why people don't like this one as much. It is pretty different than the other 2, especially after part 2 upped the time travel shenanigans up to 11 after the first movie. It's a little hard to go back to just mostly one time period for the entire movie. And also just the fact that it does focus more on Doc and Marty specifically, and romance between Doc and Clara. But I enjoy how bizarrely character focused this movie is. A lot of it is just kind of a hangout movie with Doc and Marty in the Old West.
Where did you learn to shoot like this?
7-Eleven.
It's just kind of an old west comedy romance movie, and I kind of love it for that. There's just a lot of cute moments I really love.
The train leaves the station at 8 Monday morning. We'll stop it here, uncouple the cars from the tender, throw the switch track, and then we'll borrow the locomotive and use it.
Listen, you got a back door to this place? Yeah, it's in the back.
I think it's nice that the final film appearances of these characters is so focused on them specifically. It makes it a very fitting conclusion to the trilogy.
No, Marty, in a way, it's fitting that you and I are here to witness this.
But I do confess it is weird. It's like 2 and 3 took different elements of the first movie to heart. The second one took the fun time travel hijinks and clever set pieces to heart. And part 3 takes the romance and character stuff to heart. If only there was some movie that had fun, clever time travel set pieces and great emotional storytelling in it. Honestly, it does make me appreciate the first film more because it struck that balance perfectly before I even knew there was a balance to be struck there. And I really do think the character stuff is really good here. I love Doc's dilemma of leaving Clara behind or going back to the future.
I've made a decision. I'm not going with you tomorrow. I'm staying here. There's no point in denying it. I'm in love with Clara.
Oh, Doc, we don't belong here. This tombstone could still be in your future.
Marty, the future isn't written. It can be changed. You know that. Anyone can make their future whatever they want it to be. I can't let this one little photograph determine my entire destiny.
And I like the chemistry between Doc and Clara.
I read that book too. You're quoting Jules Verne from The Earth to the Moon.
You've read Jules Verne.
And as much as I went on about how I thought the first movie didn't need a character arc, and in 2 I didn't feel it was necessary to add one, I do enjoy it for what it is here, and I think that's just because the payoff is in this movie. It's only set up in part 2, and here we actually get to see the payoff. And I like the way it's paid off.
Are you a brother named Martin McFly?
Had a brother.
Martin used to let men provoke him into fight. He was concerned that people would think him a coward if he refused. That's how he got a Bowie knife shoved through his belly in a saloon in Virginia City. Never considered the future, poor Martin, God rest his soul.
And the climaxes of all 3 movies are untouchable. Again, the perfect escalating of tension, everything going wrong, the ticking clock running out.
Why do we have to cut these things so damn close?
I love the visual storytelling of Mad Dog Tannen, literally shattering the gravestone, shattering the image of the dark future that awaited them.
Burke's putting me on the wrong side of history almost every time.
And the fucking train sequence, it's so fucking good. The camera just moves all around and they use the train for so many fun little action set pieces. And it all just feels so visceral and real. It's so beautiful and earnest. And just, what other words are in the thesaurus? Honestly, this may be a hot take. I think I prefer part 3 to part 2. And maybe I'm biased because I did manage to catch Back to the Future Part 2 in theaters when it was showing at my closest Alamo Draft House. Rest in peace. So Back to the Future Part 2 was actually the most recent movie I had seen of all 3. It had been way longer since I had seen Part 1, and even longer from the last time I saw part 3. So maybe it was just the least fresh in my mind, and so that's why I liked it less on this watch. But I got more emotional watching part 3 than part 2. I adore the conclusion of this movie. It is so cheesy, but it is so genuine. There's not a hint of irony or cynicism. It is just pure hope for a better future. And I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite conclusions to a movie.
Your future hasn't been written yet. No one's has. Your future is whatever you make it. So make it a good one.
Even with that kid pointing right at his dick, it perfectly encapsulates what I love about this series. And it kind of informs my taste in movies. I love sincerity, no matter how cheesy or silly it is. If a movie is earnest and feels like it wears its heart on its sleeve, then I stop caring about little nitpicky things about the structure or whatever. And this series is a perfect example of that. I love them all.
Where you going now? Back to the future?
Nope. Already in there.
So those are the Back to the Future films. They mean a lot to me, if you couldn't tell. I don't know if I'd be watching that many movies or making reviews if not for them. The first Back to the Future was the first movie I watched behind the scenes features on. I wanted to know how it was made because I loved it so much. And it helped that the history of Back to the Future is really fascinating. I highly recommend looking into it if you're interested. And I hope you enjoyed my little review of them. I think they're kind of perfect movies, even though I did mention some flaws with 2 and 3. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Stick around for more reviews and things like that. And I'll see you in the future.
I'm telling something that is going to be done, something that's going to happen in the future. Because bones do heals.